Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great weekend out there so far. We have many things to talk about in this morning's video. And listen, I think we're going to have a lot to talk about going forward as we are anticipating a significant pattern shift as we turn over into the new year. So that's going to be the big topic in this morning's video. Of course, I will cover today's weather, and today's portion of the forecast will kind of ooze into tomorrow and then even Christmas Eve, as I am anticipating some accumulating snow across the Great Lakes region and into the interior sections of the Northeast. So we will speak on that, but I would say 80% of the video is going to be speaking on this pattern change we are watching as we get into January. So the first thing we'll discuss is the latest from the Climate Prediction Center. They are the experts, the National Weather Service. They issued this graphic, which I think is pretty uncommon, 2 days ago, which highlighted their confidence in this pattern change occurring as we get into January. So we'll spend some time on that. Then we'll break down all model guidance. We'll nerd out with you guys. A big thing with me in this channel is explaining things where you guys, the audience, can understand. So we'll slow it down in that portion of the video and break down the pattern that we are seeing as we get into the first few weeks of January. We'll talk about temperatures compared to average, and then we'll speak on that fan favorite, which is showing, some of this long range model guidance. Are we seeing any kind of winter storms? I know a lot of people that enjoy winter weather. Not everybody does, and I get that. Enjoy seeing the blue kind of far south that, builds the excitement. I know it does for me. So are we seeing anything like that? We'll break that down also. Everything will be time stamped out very well throughout the video, so take advantage of that. And if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. Do want to say a quick thanks to Patricia. You donated to the channel, and I need to do better at that. Sometimes you guys donate to the channel through like PayPal, Cash App, or something like that, and there's not really a way to get back in touch with you, send you an email just to say thanks, and that is extremely important to me. You guys know, I hope you guys know that I'm big on appreciation, telling you guys thank you, and tears my nerves up that sometimes I just don't have a way to do that. So thank you, Patricia. But anyways, let's get rocking and rolling. So the first thing we'll discuss is the 3 to 4 week outlook that was issued 2 days ago from the National Weather Service, the Climate Prediction Center. And listen, like I said just a second ago, I think this is uncommon. They have pretty decent confidence that there's going to be below average temperatures in that 3 to 4 week period, which takes us from January 4th through January 17th. That's a pretty large area and one of the coldest times of the year. So the blue on your screen, that's where, we'll click on this area right here, the darker shade of blue. That's where you have a 60% chance of temperatures being below normal. So say, if you live somewhere where your average temperature is 50 degrees, then maybe your temperature at some point during this period might be 45, 40 degrees. So, just think of it like that. Now you go to this lighter shade of blue, that's where there's a 55% chance of temperatures being below normal for this time period. And then, you click on the lighter shade, 50% chance. But listen, for a 3 to 4 week outlook, I can't say it enough. This is pretty wild stuff. When I saw them issue this Friday, I was like, wow, this might and quite possibly have some legs. I think it really does. I think it likely does. So this is the latest outlook. Now, I don't want to just not show you this either. This is the same period, but for precipitation. So it does show pretty decent confidence, 60% chance that precipitation will be below normal. So, just because it's going to be cold doesn't mean that we're going to have the precipitation to come with it and we're going to have winter weather. So, kind of the same area where the core of this colder air could be, the chances of precipitation are below normal. But that could change. And all it takes is one storm sometimes. Now, I do want to show you guys the 8 to 14 day outlook. And I really think sometime today into tomorrow, you're going to start to see more widespread, kind of just this dull color here. I think we're going to start to beat down the chances of above average temperatures as we move day by day. And the 6 to 10 day and the 8 to 14 day outlook updates every single day around mid-afternoon from the Climate Prediction Center. So we'll see how much this changes from today through about Monday. which is tomorrow. I keep thinking today's Saturday. Through about Christmas Eve, I would say, which is Tuesday. So this is the latest from the Climate Prediction Center. Now, this is what we'll kind of slow it down, nerd out with you guys. I see a comment every single time, and it'll say, dude, just tell us what's going to happen. It'll say, just get to the point. Listen, if I could tell you it's going to snow 16 days from now, I think that I'd probably be a millionaire. Nobody knows if it's going to snow at your house on January 10th or something like that. All we can do is try to figure out the pattern as we do. We got it figured out after we do. Then we start to break down any kind of storm chance. We see a storm chance, it turns into something that looks like it's going to happen. Then we start to really micro detail that. So there's a multi-step process to this. So let's start this off by Christmas Day. So the afternoon of the 25th. If you're wondering where we're at, here's the acronyms for the days and the months. So, Thursday, this is really actually Wednesday evening, Christmas. But here's another timestamp you can see over here, but we'll keep this going. You see these redder colors, the warmer colors on your screen, or the yellows, the oranges, and the reds. That's a high pressure. It's a ridge. Typically, you get above average temperatures associated with that, etc. Calmer conditions, especially directly under the ridge. All right, the bluer colors you see on your screen, the blues, even the shade of green, this lower pressure. Normally that's below average temperatures, and really, like I said, it symbolizes lower pressure or a trough or upper level low or some sort of a lower pressure. That typically means that, you're going to get some sort of active weather or below average temperature. You're going to get a cold front associated with it. So as we start Christmas Day, and we move forward here, we do have a system kind of moving through the southwest into the south central U.S. That could bring maybe even some severe weather over the next few days. In fact, I think it will. I think there's already a marginal risk of severe weather for Christmas Eve, for example. So that'll move. We got this huge ridge over all of Canada just about. We got some troughing moving into western Canada and Alaska. But this ridge right here you're seeing, this is really going to bring above average temperatures for most of the country, most of North America. But as we progress past Christmas, we're getting into the morning of the 27th. We see this trough this area of lower pressure beginning to move into western U.S. and western Canada. Normally when you see lower pressure like this in Alaska, the lower 48 is getting above average temperatures. That's normally how it works. I don't know if you ever heard that if Alaska is very cold, normally to the south it's pretty warm. If Alaska is really warm, then normally to the south it's pretty cold. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because if you're getting warm all the way into Alaska, it could be dislodging cold to the south. And I'll explain that better here in a second. But you continue to progress this forward. We get into the morning of the 28th. Looks about the same. The little trough that moved into the western U.S. kind of disappeared. But this is what I'm watching. Here it comes. A storm system. This is just lower pressure over the Pacific Northwest and areas of southwest Canada. A storm system begins to enter the Pacific Northwest as we're getting into the 30th to the 31st of this month. I think this initializes this pattern. Now already you're having lower pressure starting to show up in the southeast. I don't think that means a lick of anything. I just think that it's just lower pressure. We could have some unsettled weather in the southeast, maybe a low that forms something. Might bring us a little bit of some cooler temperatures. Just because you see the blue, that's what a lot of people don't understand about this map. This is the 500 millibar pattern in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Just because you see the blue, that don't mean it's colder temperatures necessarily. Just because you see the red doesn't mean it's warmer temperatures necessarily. But a lot of times, that is what it means. So this storm system, I think, is going to fly across the Rockies. And I'm going to actually show you what this looks like as far as the actual surface run here in a second. This kind of gets into the central U.S. as we're getting into sometime at the end of the year. All right, and then a ridge begins to build up into Alaska. So you're starting to see high pressure building up to Alaska. Now we keep this going, and then we're going to take it all the way until about 300 hours out. Yes, this is pretty far out. We'll stop it here. So at this point, this is the morning of the 3rd of January. What we got going on here, we're going to draw on this a little bit, see if this is going to work. Let's see. Hit you with a double and if you do see any movement in the background, I got my cat behind me right there. That is Kylo. Typically he's not in here with me a lot. Normally it's a Rocket, so I don't know how he's going to react. We'll see what happens. But anyways, let's draw on this. A lower pressure right here. But one thing I want you to focus in on is this ridge beginning to spike up to Alaska. We call that a negative EPO, a positive PNA. Okay, what is this doing? Well, this is beginning to dislodge some cold air further south. I know you're thinking, well, what do you mean cold air? I'm seeing these warmer colors right here. But just because you're seeing this, guys, yes, above average temperatures are probably up in Canada. But listen, above average temperatures is frigid for areas further south. You got to think their average temperatures up in Canada are much colder than your average temperatures to the south. So just because you're seeing that doesn't mean really much of anything. So this ridge is spiking, right? This is dislodging cold air into this trough. Okay, so we got this dip in the jet stream that's doing like this. Okay, we actually have some blocking that's beginning to move over Greenland too. We call that a negative NAO. That locks in our storm track and actually helps to feed in cold air also. So what we got going on here, let's get this all back off. Spiking, lower pressure down here. That cold air is going into what could be lower pressure right into here. What could be some unsettled weather. So we're getting this dislodgement of cold air into energy in January. What does that mean? Well, that typically can mean that we're going to get some sort of winter weather threat. Now, how far south is this storm track? Is it going like this? Okay, is it going more so like this? Heck, is it way down here? Or is it up here? Well, I mean, those are the things we just don't know yet. But what we do know is this would dislodge that cold air to the south into lower pressure, which could be an active storm track. Now, if we position this trough, and we're going to keep this going, if we position this trough, this dip in the jet stream, lower pressure, trough of low pressure, too far to the east here, then we're going to run the risk of cold and dry right here. So if this continues to kind of do like this, it could just be cold and dry across the eastern U.S. If we position this blue area right here more so kind of into here, then that's when you could have the potential for low pressures to form right into here, and then you're going to end up having a big central to eastern U.S. winter storm threat. But really, you just look at the pattern as a whole and not focus on the energy necessarily, and just know that this pattern right here is going to support maybe an active storm track, but definitely colder air into the lower 48. And what interests me here is you start to lose the ridging even out west, and this to me screams cold air across the entire lower 48. But if we can get some sort of lower pressure up here into Atlantic Canada, then you get some sort of 50-50 low. You get a spiking of the ridge right here. You get blocking up here in Greenland, a negative NAO. Like I said, a negative EPO, which means you got a ridge in Alaska. You're getting a dislodgement of cold air down to this. The cold air is getting kind of amplified by this 50-50 low down here. You're getting dislodgement of cold air there. And then the big question is, what kind of energy, how active is the jet down here? That's the big question. Cold air is coming down. It's getting doubled kind of, it's getting almost like reinforced down by the potential for a 50-50 low, blocking up here in Greenland, which could lock in a storm track. And what kind of energy do you have riding throughout this area? It's a big question mark. Big question mark. And you know, if you move to the GFS ensemble, I'm going to have to click on this and then move it like that. All right, we're going to start this, and we're not going to progress the entire thing like we just did. We'll speed this up. Already on the morning of the 31st, we're getting lower pressure showing up over the southeast. Trough begins to show up. You can see that blue line beginning to dip south. This is telling me that you already got a ridge spiking up to Alaska. This is throwing some cold air down to the lower 48. And here it is. You know, we start to get into the morning of the 2nd. And dislodgement of cold air south. Look at this big blocking getting close to Greenland. Now, you're not getting that 50-50 low yet, at least. But you know, you're getting the ridge, the positive PNA, negative EPO up here, ridging out west, basically. And, yeah, we take it about 300 hours out. And let's just go progress throughout the entire run. And at first, look, this does favor, like I said, you know, some sort of storm system in here. Okay, and of course, it would start here and move into here, funnel of cold air right in here. This lower pressure would tell me colder than average temperatures, some sort of storm system right in here. That's what it would favor initially, I think. And then what happens as you progress forward here is you get a dislodgement of cold air even out west into the central U.S. And then at the end of the run, guys, I mean, man, at the very end of the run, as we're getting into just fully into the first week of January, it dumps just a ton of cold air down to the lower 48. I know you're just seeing blue, but that you can say is cold air. Okay, you got this ridge spiking up to Alaska. That's just a bunch of cold air into the lower 48. So hopefully that made sense, guys. I think as we get closer, we'll be able to explain it better. But what does that look like as far as temperatures compared to average? We'll start off the morning of the 30th. The entire lower 48 is above average temperatures. Heck, almost all of North America. And then you start to see out west begin to cool off. I think that's going to be your storm system that moves in, that first storm system. And then that first storm system is probably going to cut across the middle of the country. And this is going to help to pull down cold air down. And I think the southeast does cool down first. I think cold air will return even where you're seeing the warmer than average colors, warmer than average temperature. I think cold air is returning, but it's just not very cold compared to average. In fact, it's still warmer than average. So I think the south and southeast could cool off first with this cold that's going to dig down. And then at the end of the run, you start to see the colder than average temperature showing up across the middle of the country. So yeah, this is when you start to see blue on the map for January. It's a lot different than when you see it on the map for early December. January is just a different animal. It's the coldest time of the year. So if you're getting temperatures that are 5 to 15 degrees below average, whether it's your morning or daytime highs, that's cold for even the south. You get some precipitation with it, what's going to happen? So that's the Euro ensemble, and then you look at the GFS ensemble, warmer than average temperatures to round off the new 2024. And then as we start to get into the new year, that's when you start to see the below average temperatures starting to creep up into the country. It unfolds a little bit different. It actually cools off the central portion of the country first. And then, we're starting to get into the 3rd, the 4th of January. And heck, guys, we get all the way to the end of this run, and there's that first kind of shot of cold air. I think it's going to be 2 shots. I think the first one will come through, and then I think there's going to be a bigger shot as we get several days into January. And you can see it building right there. That is well below average temperatures. And, by the time we get at the very end of the run, 15 days from now, man, you have most of the country below average temperature-wise. Now, I will show you the operational run, and it kind of shows it in a way where I kind of favor it. I kind of favor what the GFS is showing here. It shows, and this is just the operational run. This isn't the ensemble run. It shows a shot of cold air initially. Okay, the blues and the greens, that's below average temperatures. This kind of cools down the country and kind of breaks loose of the torch that we're probably going to deal with over the next several days through the new year. Okay, cools everybody down, well below average temperatures to the south, and then at the very end of the run, it starts to bring old Barney down and well below average temperatures. I mean, a true North Pole Arctic air mass begins to get unleashed into the lower 48. And at the very end of the run, you have that classic Arctic boundary digging down across the middle of the country. You don't want to see temperatures this cold. I will agree with that. I know that I'm always a big winter weather fan, cold, and I know not everybody likes that. But you don't want it to, start doing something that's familiar to February 2021. That was a tough situation. We don't want to see anything like that. But not saying the GFS is showing that, but it is showing a very cold air mass right in the run. But that's at the very end. It's not necessarily a reliable time frame. But then I do want to show you the Euro. It doesn't evolve it the same way. It does bring that first cold blast in as we're getting into the early portion of the month, below average temperatures to the southeast. But, after that, it kind of moderates things, and it does cool off the middle of the country. But at the very end of the run, you can see very cold temperatures getting into the first 5 days of January, starting to ooze down from Canada. Does that unleash into the lower 48? Not quite sure. Now, if we do look at the storm systems, which is probably what some people want to see, are we seeing any kind of fantasy runs? Well, yesterday we did. Overnight into this morning, not so much, but The ensembles are still supporting this. And this is what I'm talking about. There's that first storm system across the Rockies. You see the snow, rain, wherever, depending on your elevation. That kind of gets the pattern going. And then we get into the middle of the country. Here's a storm system going across the central U.S. There's some snow where, typically you would see snow this time of the year, New Year's Eve. And then this system, just not cold enough, mostly rain for the eastern U.S. It's getting into the 2nd of January. You can see that 540 line digging down. I mean, some cold air is getting brought down from that cutter. And then we start to get the northwest flow snow again, the lake effect snow. And then another cold air mass begins to drop down out of Canada. Here comes another system, but this looks like it's going to cut also. But, that's showing a big winter storm for the Midwest and does show a cold air damming event. But, this is all speculating. This is all past 10 days. It's just way out there. But there is no crazy winter storm for the South or anything like that. Now, what about the GFS, which is more prone to show stuff like this? Same thing. Storm system moves into the Rockies around the first or second, the last 2 days of the year, I would say. And, I don't think this is necessarily going to be a big storm. That could change. That system will cut. There's the system right there. Mostly rain for areas that normally can see snow this time of the year. We get into New Year's. Cold front moves in. Shows a little snow in Arkansas. And this tries to develop into a low pressure off the coast of the eastern U.S. Brings just your typical looking storm that we've seen already this winter and fall so far. Snow for the interior sections. And then backside northwest flow for the mountains of the Appalachia, the Apps. And then cold air moves down. And there's no system behind this, just a shot of cold air. And then at the very end of the run, you can see the Arctic air mass dropping down with a major winter storm associated with it. Now, that's not a forecast. It's just a run way out there, but you can see the cold air beginning to dig down. And I will show you the Canadian run too, just to show it. But there's that cutter right there. And we'll stop it here because it's as far as we can go. 240 hours out, that's as far as the Canadian run goes. But it already shows cold air about to drop down with a storm system associated with it that's going to cut. So we'll see what happens, guys. The Euro AI model, which I'm still not sold on this model, but it does show the first storm system right here, New Year's Eve, cutting across the country. You see that 540 line digging down. This only shows green. It only shows precipitation. It doesn't show what's actually falling, whether it's snow. Cold air kind of drops down here, and then a system pops up out the Gulf. And there is just enough cold air for certain areas for this to be a big-time winter storm. But I think for most of the Carolinas, Georgia, Southeast, this is just a cold rain. But it just shows that the pattern is changing. And then another cold air mass moves in behind it. So we'll continue to talk about this. We'll try to lock it in and see what's going to happen. But the lower 48, as far as what's happening right now, we'll talk about today's weather. We're starting to get some unsettled weather moving out west. We're getting a little bit of a wintry mix up here in the high plains. This energy you're seeing right here will actually try to get going again in the Great Lakes region over the next 48 hours. But, the eastern U.S., the southern U.S. is pretty quiet. Now, out here on Cape Cod, we're getting some I almost want to say lake effect. We're getting some ocean effect snow. So you're waking up to maybe a winter wonderland out here in Cape Cod. Let me know what you're seeing. I think I have a couple viewers from that area, but looks like you guys are getting some ocean effect snow. It could continue throughout the morning. Watches, warnings, and advisories. We do have some freeze warnings, freeze watches down here in southeast Georgia, which is kind of odd. I already thought you guys already had sub-freezing temperatures this year. Very odd, honestly. But cold weather advisories across the Northeast, and then we still have some special weather statements for areas of PA and Ohio. But we do have some winter weather advisories up here in North Dakota, Montana, even some in Wyoming for a little winter weather that's ongoing. As far as the excessive rainfall, where are you at, man? Not anticipating any. And then as far as thunderstorms, we could get some thunderstorms from this system, the coastal regions of Oregon, Washington, and Northern California. The Southeast today, pretty quiet weather. We're going to get some rain showers that will move into the eastern shorelines of Florida. Could cross the peninsula of Florida. Everybody else, though, guys, pretty quiet weather. Nothing to really speak on. Now, we will talk on... Man, this looks like I got this everywhere. Now, speaking on the Northeast, and let's go back to the HRRR model, and let's go to 06Z. Right now, all we got is that lake. Almost said it again. The ocean effect snow. I'm so used to saying lake effect snow. Even though the H-R model is not picking up on it well, that's impacting areas of southeast Mass. But outside of that, guys, a quiet weather day. Now, as we get into the evening, into the overnight hours, all the way into tomorrow morning, a system is going to begin to move in, and we got snow flying around in Ontario, southern Ontario. And then as we're getting into tomorrow about midday, snow will begin to move into Buffalo. Snow will begin to move into western New York. We could begin to get some snow in northern Ohio. You guys in Cleveland tomorrow evening will have some snow flying around. Erie, some snow. And Buffalo is still snowing. And as we're starting to get into tomorrow evening, which we are getting into Monday at this point, it's snowing pretty good across northwest PA, northern Ohio. Like I said, New York starting to move into Vermont. And then snow starts to move into southern New England, western Maine. And guys, this could be some pretty heavy snow. And then it has this area of snow moving across Pennsylvania as we're getting into the middle of the night tomorrow night. And this is as far out as the H-R model goes. But this is around like 1 a.m. Tuesday. It's snowing pretty good on on Boston. Somebody said you mixed Buffalo and Boston up yesterday morning's video. They were nice about it. And yes, I will do that. Sometimes my mouth just takes over and my brain stops. But trust me, I know my cities. But Boston, it's snowing pretty good if this is correct. But this is a decent little snow event in the middle of the night tomorrow night, moving across the Northeast. Now, if we kind of keep this run going, and man, we are everywhere, aren't we? Doesn't look like I'm fully prepared for this video. And we kind of go back to this, and we finish this run off with the Euro. And here it comes, bringing some snow. It looks a little bit different than the HER model. But as we're starting to get into Tuesday morning, Christmas Eve morning, some snow is making its way to New York City, starting to move into eastern PA, maybe a little bit of snow down to West Virginia. And I do think we could have some just flakes flying around for the big cities of the I-95 corridor all the way up into Maine. And we'll see what happens with that. But as far as snowfall between now and pretty much Christmas morning, a few to several inches of snow could fall. Buffalo, a couple inches of snow. I think Syracuse could get a few inches. The Tuck Hill Plateau could get a few inches of snow. Rochester, same thing. Going for dusting amounts down to New Jersey and Long Island. This could increase. A few tenths of an inch of snow is possible. And then we start to move a little bit further east. Going for around an inch in Boston from this. Like I said, showing those dusting amounts down here in Long Island. A couple to a few inches of snow across just New England. Nobody's going to get, huge snowfall from this, but certainly a little festive event right before Christmas or getting into Christmas. But a few to maybe several inches of snow could fall in the down east areas of Maine. We'll see how this works out for you guys. The south central U.S. continues to be extremely quiet and will be all the way into tomorrow morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Sorry I haven't spoken on you much. There's just not much going on. But getting into this morning as far as the north central U.S., not a whole lot going on this morning. And then I do think snow will develop late tonight across really just Michigan, even areas of Wisconsin, especially north central Wisconsin. But, lower Michigan, I think you'll wake up to some snow tomorrow, even areas of the UP and Michigan. And then the snow will become widespread tomorrow morning across lower Michigan, southern sections of the eastern UP. And listen, I think the snow could be quite heavy for lower Michigan tomorrow. And you could get a burst of heavy snow for Detroit tomorrow also. And I think it could snow for several hours in Detroit. We're getting into tomorrow afternoon. The snow looks like it's just not cold enough for snow down like Indianapolis, but snow will be falling in Cleveland, Toledo, Akron. It's still snowing in Detroit, and then it finally clears on out. Now, how much snow could fall from this? A few inches of snow could fall in northern to north central, really, Wisconsin. If you live in this kind of shade of blue here, that's around 3 to 4 inches of snow. And then we do make our way into lower Michigan. And Detroit could get a few inches of snow from this. Flint, 3 to 4 inches of snow. If you live up here in the northern sections of lower Michigan, someone could get over a half a foot of snow from this. So I think this is going to move through, drop a quick several inches of snow. So we'll see what happens. I will zoom in into the UP. This is what you're looking like up here. I think this is going to be mainly confined to the eastern UP. And here's the key down here. So 4 to 6 inches of snow possible in the eastern UP. We'll see what happens. Ohio, not much. I'm actually surprised. I think more snow than this could fall in Cleveland. You heard it here first. Northern counties of Ohio, I think more snow than that can fall. But the western U.S., we got a storm system moving in this morning. This will bring rain. This is another warm storm system. Some heavy rain for Northern California. Some thunderstorms are possible. You got to get way up in elevation for this to be snow in the Cascades and even the Olympic Mountains. But this will continue to kind of move across the Northern Rockies in a form of just same thing. Higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain. Temperatures today are locked into the tundra in the Northeast. I mean, highs will struggle to get into the 20s in a lot of areas. I mean, I don't even think it's going to get above freezing for DC points north. And then just 30s for the rest of Virginia, 30s and 40s for the Carolinas, Tennessee, 30s and 40s, even chilly down here in Florida. But you can already see the warm starting to take back over in the middle of the country. 60s starting to return, and the western U.S. still pretty warm. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Appreciate the kind comments on the personal video yesterday. You guys just always know how to make a guy feel awesome. So I kind of skimmed through them. I didn't read them all, but I'm going to acknowledge all of them probably tomorrow afternoon when I go through all my weekend comments. But thank you for the kind words and all the encouraging words. I really appreciate you guys. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again soon. God bless.